Hey guys, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in, coming back and watching. I appreciate it, and hope you're doing well and staying safe out there today. Um, if you're new here, I'm Jim. I make tutorial videos about helping you explore your creativity and kind of have fun with your images via post-processing. Today I'm in Luminar 4. This is another episode in my isolation editing challenge series. Just trying to think of exercises and creative things we can do while we're often sort of stuck at home, for lack of a better word. And in this one, I'm doing something a little bit different. It involves a portrait, and it's essentially a double exposure. So if you haven't done double exposures, it's basically taking one image and laying a second image on top of it, sort of blending them together to come up with a creative and different sort of photograph. Here's the base photo that I have. This is just a selfie, for lack of a better word. Many years ago when I had my first camera and I was experimenting, and I took a photo of myself in the mirror. Pretty uninspired and unexciting, but that's me 10 years ago when I was younger. And what I did is I've been thinking, a lot of people are asking, like, where will you go? What do you want to do when you have the ability to travel again? And personally, I love London. It's probably my favorite city, so I've sort of had London on my mind. So that was my theme here, is London on my mind. So I made a photo that represents London on my mind, and here's my final result. So I'm going to reset all these filters. I'm going to walk through the workflow and show you how I did this photo. Okay, so my base image unedited, the first thing I did is go into the light tool, and I lifted the exposure a little bit because it's a little bit dark. Something about like that, and then I bumped up the contrast pretty high. I think I was at about like 75. So, something about like that. There's my base photo, and then of course, as you could probably tell, I made it a black and white, so I converted to black and white. One simple click and I'm done. That's really it. I just wanted to create a base photo that had a bit more contrast, was a little bit brighter, and was monochrome. Done. And so that's it. So the next thing is to get the London photo and start applying that to my image. So you click on the layers icon and then plus, add new image layer. And I have, where is it? There we go. I have a lot of London photos on my desktop that I've been experimenting with for other things. There you go. So it comes in like that. And now it is a bit wonky because it's basically a horizontal image that has been applied to a vertical image. And so it's squishy, for lack of a better word, but that's okay. We're going to go into layer transform and fix that. Actually, before I do that, the first thing I'm going to do is lower the opacity of this layer. I'm going to do something about like that so I can kind of see my image underneath, because what I'm trying to do is line up the image to where it's kind of going into the camera. It's almost as though the image is being born out of my camera, which is true. In fact, both images are born out of my camera. So now I'm going to do layer transform. Okay, and here, basically, all I'm doing is kind of moving this around until I get it looking the way I want it to look. Something I think, by the way, with transform, you can actually transform it to where it's kind of pulling off the side of the image. So I did something about like that. And I think I moved it about like that. I can't remember exactly, but I'm trying to get those people and where the light kind of comes together on that long exposure, kind of in the center-ish of my lens. So something about like that. And, again, it's just experimentation. Every image is going to be different. Something like that. I also wanted to get that bright spot off of my eye because it was right in my eye, which actually might look kind of cool, but the rest of the image was too squished for that. So I think something about like that. Again, I'm kind of experimenting, and there you go. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say done. Now, my final opacity was actually about 30, so I'm going to go ahead and take that down. I also changed the blend mode, which helps it blend together, and I'm going to go with lighten, and so that's actually blending that together. You don't see the border of the photo anymore, which I think is nice. And the other thing I did is I went into Edit Mask and Brush, and I want to go into Erase. I'm going to lower this opacity to about 50%, and I'm going to shrink my brush, and all I want to do is kind of erase some of this stuff from my eye because I want you to see my eye better in the final photo, and I don't want it covered up by some of those buildings of Parliament that are there. So that's another thing you can do when you add a new image layer, is you can erase to get aspects of it out of your final photo. So now we've got a blended image. There's before, and there it is with the new image from London blended on top of it. Okay, while I'm on this layer, I'm going to go into the Essentials tab. Now I'm adjusting the London layer because that's the one that I'm on currently. So I'm going to go in here to light and make a couple of refinements to the photo. First, I'm going to take smart contrast and I'm going to bump that up again. Now again, I'm just impacting the London photo and I'm taking the highlights down quite a bit, something about like that. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go into color and I'm going to bump up saturation and vibrance. So I'm going to do something like 63 and like 35 or 36, something like that. I'm just trying to create that image to be really colorful. And that's one of the reasons I made the base layer black and white, is because I want it to be very different and therefore it stands out better. The base image, as you saw, was kind of yellow looking. So this is now going to be quite a bit more noticeable, the colors in London, because they're on top of basically a black and white photograph. Okay, so far I think we're doing a pretty good job. There's before and after. Now I'm going to do one more final touch, and that's adding a new adjustment layer and making a couple of more edits to it. The first thing is to go into smart contrast again, and now I'm going to go about 62, 63, something like that. Now I'm on an adjustment layer above the other two, so this contrast is affecting the entire image, not just one of the individual images below it. After this was AI Enhance, and I went over here to about like 35, 38, something like that. And again, just making refinements to the photo based on taste. It's purely, this is art. We're making this up anyway. So I'm just trying to refine it to get the look that I kind of had in my mind, and also what I find to be most visually pleasing. So I'm just making refinements based on that. This is not a prescription or a recipe you should follow. I recommend just experimenting till you get the look that you really like in your portrait. Okay, now at this point, I like the image quite a bit, but there's too much blue kind of on my hand and on some of my face. So I'm going to go over here and take the blue saturation down. I'm going to go down pretty significantly, something like 80, 85. And then I'm going to say mask, brush, and I'm going to go to paint. I'm going to increase my brush size. And all I want to do is erase some of that blue from like my fingertips and my hand, my hair, my face, that sort of thing. So I'm just kind of doing that. Oh, I'm at opacity 50. I need to raise that. I want to go ahead and go full opacity here to get all of that blue out of there and keep that kind of monochrome look on that base layer. I think that looks good. I'm going to say done. And really the last thing is just going into the vignette and kind of refining the final look of the photo. I'm going to leave the subject in the middle. I'm going to say like negative 57, 58. I was right in there. And size, I was at about 20, 21, something like that. And then I just did a little bit of inner light at about like 13, just to kind of brighten that center of the image. And that's really it, my friends. That is the final image. So there's the before, a simple selfie in the mirror from many years ago, and the final double exposure blend that involved me laying London on top of my photo myself. So let me show you the before and after. You can kind of see the sliding. And for double exposures, there's so many examples of this online. You can just Google these up to look for best practices. It works really well with silhouettes. I've seen a lot of double exposures of like a silhouette of a person against a city, or like a really kind of a monochrome, really bright face with like trees and leaves inserted into that. And then you can erase it from around that. There's so many things you can do. This is just my take on this photograph. You could do a lot of different things, not just with this photograph, but with really any photograph you have. I recommend just experimenting and playing around, but it's really about experimenting with layers and blend modes, and then refining that based on the look that you wanted. And here it was just, I was just thinking, I have London on my mind. I've been kind of experimenting with some exposure blends, as you may have seen in other videos, and I thought it would be fun to do a double exposure blend. In this case, I just wanted to illustrate London on my mind. So there's London on my mind. I just thought it came together well with the light streaks kind of going across my face, Big Ben, which is very recognizable, and then me in the background. So last view of it, there it is before and after. Fun video. Hope that you get some ideas out of this to go experiment with on your own. Mostly, I hope you're staying safe and healthy out there, and thanks for watching, my friends. I'll see you really soon. Have a great day. Take care, and adios.